Today, I'm sitting here with Jonathan Jacobi. He's only 24 years old, but already has a very incredible career. He is a very successful CTF player. He's a founding member of Perfect Blue and also played with Paston. And he has worked as a vulnerability researcher with Checkpoint. And he was even one of the youngest, maybe even the youngest Microsoft employee. And then even later did vulnerability research in the military. And now he joined the cybersecurity startup DAS.io as part of the CTO team. So, hello, Jonathan. Welcome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
So I first wanted to talk about how we met, because we met first, I believe, at CCC, because you gave a talk.
You're going to tell us about the last 12 months and what you have done. So your talk is called From Zero to Zero Day.
Yeah, it was 2018. It was 35th CCC. The title of the talk was From Zero to Zero Day. And the idea was I was just freshly 18 back then. And I wanted to kind of walk through people how I got from being just a random teenager to a point where I found a critical vulnerability in back in the day was Microsoft Edge. And what was the process and how I got from being such a young enthusiast in computer science and cybersecurity into doing something with actual real-world impact.
And the reason why I noticed you with this talk is because you referenced a tweet of mine.
A great tweet by Live Overflow, which also should be in the audience or in the conference, and basically says what I really believe in, which is move away from the basics as soon as possible and expose yourself to harder things which you don't understand. This will make you understand things that you thought you understood, but you actually didn't. And also, it's important to learn from different resources. This way, you learn different tricks and different ways to approach problem solving. And it's very important, in my opinion. So, yeah, Live Overflow also has a great YouTube channel, which I also watch. And he talks about vulnerability and security research. And I really recommend watching his videos as well.
And that's kind of how like our contact kind of started to establish. And now you're sitting here. And so I wanted to start with, where were you born? What was life like as very, very young Jonathan Jacobi? What were the first memories?
That's a good question. So I grew up in a small, not so small, but a city next to Tel Aviv. And essentially, the main thing I remember for myself in a young age is I always had some crazy passion to computers. So people were playing, soccer and judo and many things, and I tried them out and I even enjoyed them. But I was always waiting for the time on the computer and to play and to do all those kind of things.
Was this were you mostly interested in games, just computer games, or what were you doing on the computer?
So it started with games, but then it evolved.
Do you remember when you got your first computer, or when did you have access to your first computer?
I think it was when I was like 9 or 10 or 8, something pretty young.
Did they already work in tech? Like,
No.
Did they show you anything, No. Like, for example, my father, he worked at Hewlett-Packard, and he had like a little bit of very, very small programming and Linux experience. So he couldn't really show me. He wasn't like super deep in tech, but I feel like that sparked me. But you, just out of nowhere, you were just like interested in that machine.
Yeah, so I think the first initial kind of thing that triggered me was games. But then it evolved. My cousins were super interested in computers. They're kind of a few years older than me, and they always played, and they even got like their private server and a few games, which as a young kid really interested me. Like, how did they even create a private server of something that's actually commercial? How did it work? How do they change things? How do they change text in the game? How does that even work? And that kind of started the way of curiosity rolling as a snowball.
So if maybe you started like introduced to your first computer with like 9, then a few years later, like 11, 12 or so, if I would have asked like 12-year-old Jonathan Jacobi what he might want to be later, would that person already have said like something with computer, or did you have different ideas back then, other dreams?
That's a good question. I think specifically when I was 12, I didn't know like this is going to go this way. When I was 13 though, I started doing my college degree. And that was kind of a point where I kind of took it to the next level.
Okay, wait. So when you say college, it depends on different, like, countries have different versions of school. Like, can you like to me, college is like, what is that usually? Is that later, like with 18 or something? Or the degree? Like, does it mean you took it very early, this degree?
I took it very early. I started when I was 13, in 8th grade, and I finished my computer science degree when I was 18.
Can you compare that? Like, is it so? This is not the regular school time. So this is so. Can you explain what would be the regular school time and what was your school time?
Yeah. So the regular school time was normal school, like history, math, English, all the classic classes. And there was a special kind of program for kids interested in mostly like pick kids in computer science and math. Like we didn't study computer science in school back then, but we did study math, and you'd pick, like, the program picked a few kids and gave them the opportunity to take it up a notch and kind of go for a degree, full-on degree in computer science.
So in parallel to regular school, like other kids would be like in regular school and you would already work on like a bachelor's degree, or is that like...
Yeah. So my classmates, like you can break it into two, like my school classmates and my college classmates. And my college classmates it was composed of people my age, like everyone was a year older than me, but somewhat my age. And my normal school were just kids doing kids stuff, you know.
How did you hear about this kind of program? Was this like, were you just at a very good school that has had these kind of opportunities and you knew about them? Were you interested in kind of going for that? Was this a teacher approaching you? Like, how did that happen?
That's a good question. To be honest, it was kind of random, I guess. This is an interesting point to think and wonder about life, having random points in time that really change the course of your life. So I think it was random because, like, it had an impact that I was pretty good in math and I was really interested in it and so on. But I got like a letter in the mail, and I could have also missed it, and I could have also ignored it. But the letter was based on like math grades, and I guess somewhat like a teacher might have suggested that I was maybe a good suit for that. But also kind of random because easily could have been like ignored, you know.
What did your parents think? Did they encourage you early enough to do that? Did they notice that you had an interest, and were they supportive of that, or did they have a different idea in mind for what you should do, or were they open to anything?
That's a good question. So the point was that they didn't really know much about it, so it was like they were curious about it as much as I was, and we just wanted to try it out. And being curious was important because that kind of started the whole thing. So I went into the like introduction day, and it was super fascinating. I was like, okay, studying about how computers work and taking it up a few levels higher. So I was like, of course, let's go, let's do it. And I started the first semester was like one course. We learned Java. And I remember I was 13 years old, and during the day learning about, I don't know, basic things in school, and then during the evenings like coding in Java with a bunch of adults that are doing it as part of their computer science degree.
So sounds like your parents never had to like. I think my parents struggled a bit more. Like I was struggling with like languages in English and so they had to sit down with me and study, and they maybe were worried about like how I end up or like how I would do in school. Some classes I was not very good at, but were you just very good and your parents just supported you in what you were doing? Like you were doing great already, or did they had any concerns?
It was kind of neutral. It was. We're not sure where this is going to go. Like, it was a big question mark. But they were supportive of the attempt. I don't know. Like, I truly believe, like, an interesting thing about my story, in my opinion, is that I don't think I'm, like, smarter than everyone else. I think that I did some good decisions throughout the way. And it's interesting to see what got me in position where I can get those decisions and what made me take my decisions, which is the process itself, which I think is important and can be very, very valuable to learn from. So this is, I think, an interesting point.
Yeah. I feel like when I was 13, I had lots of different interests, and computers were definitely one of them. But I also had other interests. I was playing tennis, and interest very quickly changed. I think I started karate sometime, but then also stopped like after a year. It's kind of interesting, of course, that you like had an interesting topic, but committed to it in kind of like school degree wise already this early. So you started doing that then at 13, and so that took, I guess, a couple of years. How long did it take you until you got like a degree? Like when was it done?
It was done when I was done with high school. So I finished my bachelor degree in computer science when I finished high school.
And
so it took like 5 years.
Okay, so 18, then you finished with that. And throughout the time, computer were always like kept up the interest to you. Like you never, like there was never, you wanted, I think I want to do like biology or maybe something else. Like
there was a phase, a physics phase, but it kind of pivoted away back to computer science. But it was pretty consistent. I was pretty consistent with my interest in computers. I think the fact that I did that in college also made it easier to love, because you were exposed to the depths and many intricacies and a lot of that. And I was pretty consistent with loving computers.
Okay, and then so I assume the first thought of it would be to become like a developer or an engineer in that kind of area, or when started security to kind of like come into that world?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think the very first initial kind of interaction with computer security was even before I started my degree, and it was my cousins, those the same ones that got me into playing MapleStory and all those games. Kind of like they were really into like game hacking and understanding how cheat engine works and understanding and doing all that things and building your own MapleStory private server back in the day. It was a common thing to do. And this was the very first initial thing that I would consider my interaction with hacking. And the fact that I think nowadays the definition of a hacker in my perspective is much, much more deep than simply doing computer stuff. It's kind of the essence of being able to look at things, understand how they work, and getting them to do whatever you want them to do. And if we look at the very first interaction that kind of matches this description, is game hacking fits that, and building your own private servers for computer games. And this is where it started. Now, it wasn't where I started doing that myself, and that turned out to be quite a few years after, and it was when I was introduced to capture the flag contests.
How old were you when you learned about that?
I think I was 15 or 16 or something around that age.
Yeah, but to me it's interesting because for my most of career, I was doing computer science and I was looking forward to become a developer. In fact, I still feel like if security doesn't work out, maybe I do be an engineer or something. But so for you, it sounds like even though you were in computer science, in parallel, there was already like a security and hacking interest. And then very early with 15, so you just barely kind of started with your school program and you got into CTFs. So how was your first CTF experience? Do you remember the kind of CTF it was?
I don't remember which exact one it was, but I remember that it was quite a while that I really, really sucked at it, like really badly. And I could barely solve anything, and I just go on to the scoreboard afterwards and see the CTF time, and everyone were like super successful, and I was very behind.
Were you playing alone or with your classmates?
Yeah, when I started, I played alone, yeah.
So, and do you remember how you heard of CTFs? Like, how did that even get into your life?
I think, I don't remember exactly which thing triggered it. I was really into like Twitter, like being in the Twitter scene of computers like security. So I read about like incidents, and I read about what's happening, and kind of stayed up to date. And the Twitter scene is pretty strong with that. And I think like expanding your network in that direction, expanding your like exposure to security stuff, definitely gets you to capture the flags. So this is the first initial like friction I had. But then again, I really sucked at it, and it took me quite a while to get to a position where I don't suck at it as much.
But what was it that kept you then with capture the flag? Because when you sucked at it, maybe it's boring or you don't like it, but you apparently stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the competitive aspect? Was it like the fact that it's like short and you can like go deep for just a few hours, basically? Was it the thrill at the scoreboard? Like what was for you, what do you think was the deep drive there?
Yeah, the deep drive was I think the fact that I knew where this can get me, like the ability to do such crazy things, the ability to get computers to do even remotely on another person's computer, not necessarily in an offensive way, but just the thought of it kind of blew my mind. And I knew like a capture the flag contest definitely gets you there. You suck at it first, but if you like switch your mind and start like working hard and not giving up, you can get to a position where you are successful at this, and you can get to a position where you can get computers to do whatever you want them to do. So just the thought of being able to do it, and like the fact that it was possible, was kind of what drove me there. I knew there's no way I'm not, if I'm putting my time and my effort and everything I have into getting there, I will get there. Just have to work hard enough.
Do you remember your first buffer overflow?
Yeah, I failed. Like I found the vulnerability. It was like an SDR copy or something. And
so it was an actual vulnerability, or was it a CTF?
It was a CTF, and it was like the simplest, like classic book level, like buffer overflow. You have an SDR copy to the stack, and super simple thing. No mitigations, no anything. And I knew the theory behind it, but I tried to implement it and kind of failed. But
where do you know the theory from? Did you research buffer overflows before, or because of the CTF challenge? Do you remember how you kind of like?
So the exposure was the similar way I got exposed to CTFs in the first place. It was Twitter. You read about things, you read articles, people post things, and you kind of get involved. So this was the initial kind of interaction. And I knew the theory from there. And I read like Smashing the Stack from Founder Profit and all the classic things. But it was my first time trying to implement it.
And at that time, you were still like doing this alone, or did you already have like friends that were kind of interested in that as well? Did you have classmates that were interested in CTFs too? Or were you like more the only one in your class that was interested in kind of hacking and security?
I was kind of doing it by myself. Like it was really much a hobby for me. It was, I read about it on Twitter on my free time. I kind of am interested about how it works. And then I have this platform, or like a kind of way to express and kind of practice my skills and improve. So I did this myself, and I think like the first time like I succeeded, I remember successfully exploiting a vulnerability in a capture the flag contest, and that was crazy. I just remember being so happy about it. I remember like talking to my friends, and they were like, cool, but okay. They weren't like as hyped about it as I was. And this was kind of the first step of understanding, okay, this is possible. Just got to work hard and explore more and research more, and I'll get there.
When was the first time you were able to actually share that passion with other people? Like kind of maybe was the first like a CTF team with other people, or was it actually like applying to a job? Or when suddenly became like solo Jonathan hacking to like a thing of, you are interacting with other people or get to know people? Were these online friends at first, or?
Great question. So I think there are two kind of separate occasions. One is a friend from my college degree. We went to a conference, like a local conference that had a capture the flag contest, and I kind of asked like the people there how to signing up for it works and so on. So we kind of played together, and me and him even did pretty well. But it was a local contest, nothing too serious, nothing really like no real competitors, like no big teams, or it was like people come to a conference and you have a bunch of challenges. So this was the first time I think I was having a proper interaction with a friend. Like we were pretty young too, with like a real life friend working on a capture the flag contest. And I think another point in time which was pretty significant is how we built Perfect Blue. So this kind of was a lot of how I met people with such great passion.
At what age did you start? Like when was Perfect Blue created?
So essentially, Perfect Blue was composed was built from two different parts, and one like two different sub teams I would call it, and we were all pretty like two small teams. And the way our like small team was formed was because I went on to like a IRC after I captured the flag.
Yeah, that's maybe important to know. Part of the cool thing about Capture the Flag competitions with that just run a weekend is always the discussions afterwards. I found them extremely educational always. So I had fun during the CTF, but I was always extremely looking forward to IRC afterwards. Nowadays, it's probably not so much IRC anymore. Many have Discord nowadays, but these discussions are still happening. And that is a big difference to, I think, because lots of people nowadays, I think, learn through platforms like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, and they also have communities. But of course, I think they are more careful about like spoilers, and because these are still active challenges and leaderboards and points that are ongoing, like wargame style. But with CTFs, everything is kind of like open afterwards.
That's true.
And I found this extremely educational. All the write-ups, people very helpful as well. For me, that was always a very educational spot. So I just want to explain the context. So it was very typical after CTFs, you would join these channels and just observe and maybe participate and share your own solutions. And so, yeah, you were saying.
So exactly what you said, I totally agree. I really looked forward to afterwards. And if we like remember what I said in the beginning, I think that evidently I wasn't the best back then, but I was really passionate, and I knew that I have a goal and I want to get there. And specifically in that very specific CTF, I think it was Angstorm CTF, I wanted to know how to solve a few things I didn't manage to solve. So just went on IRC and talked to a few people. I think I asked some in the public chat who managed to solve this challenge, and just talked in a direct message with someone. That someone's name is Jazzy. And we were talking, and he told me what he did, and I told him what I did, and we kind of like there was a click there, and we moved to talk on Twitter, and we kept talking, and we understood that we kind of soloed our way. And so we said, okay, why don't we just play together? And so we did, and he brought a friend, like we were like a team of four.
What was the name of that team?
It was called Dank Squad. We started playing together, and that was incredible. Like we even qualified for a final in Paris. It was Nuit du Hack, I think it was called. And that was crazy because that was the first time I felt I found some people with as great passion towards CTFs as me. Like, of course, and in the meantime, I also met with, like, there were local friends that I met that were also super passionate. But I felt like the click with the team, with Dank Squad back then, and the kind of passion towards it, and the kind of will to work hard was kind of the same. Even though at the time I also found local friends that had passion and wanted to kind of devote more time into it. But I felt like the team Dank Squad was really special. Also, we were all kind of the same age. We were all like 17-ish back then. And that worked out pretty well. We played together, qualified for one final, really did kind of well compared to a four-person team.
Was this an international team or local?
Yeah, so Jazzy is from Canada. there was one person from the US and one person from Sampriti from the US and Levitating Lion from Germany. And we were like an international team, each one from different kind of culture, and it was pretty cool to exhibit this. And it was pretty random. Like talking to Jazzy on IRC was random, and the fact that Jazzy and Sampriti knew each other from the CTF scene, and that was random. And like there's a lot of random in life, but you have to like kind of capture the moment, and like not like you have opportunity, you just need to be able to take the opportunities and use them. So yeah, that's kind of how the team started forming. And then what happened was, I think for DEF CON 2018 for the qualifiers, we so Jazzy had Jazzy and Sampriti, I think both of them had friends from like they met in another Capture the Flag contest that had another team. And so we merged to be Perfect Blue. This is how Perfect Blue was formed. And they were like, I think, I'm not precisely sure about how many, but we're like 8 people. So the merger of the two teams. And we started playing together. We almost qualified for DEF CON. We got like 1 below the qualifying number to the finals. Yeah, that was pretty sad. But like I loved every single one of them. They were super smart. Like, not word, they're still super smart, and it was crazy to be able to work with such a talented team and to get to know an international team and to be one of the founding members of what came to be one of the most successful CTF teams.
So all this happened in parallel to you doing your high school and college. Was it also college?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in parallel, you did your degree. I don't know, like for me, degree, like exams are very stressful and so forth, but you had the time, like it was easy for you, or?
Oh, that wasn't easy. And I think it definitely had its impacts. I was like, when I started my degree, I was a year younger than everyone else in the team, in like the class. And like in the last year, they were like not in high school anymore. And I was still in high school, and I had high school. I had a college degree, which was extra intense because everyone else didn't have high school. I worked back then. I started an internship at Checkpoint.
And this was not a mandatory internship, because sometimes in university, maybe so for me, for example, we had to like work at a company in school, I think in 10th grade or so. It's like mandatory to do like an internship. This was nothing school related. It was like your own motivation. You wanted to do that?
Yeah. And this is like the part of the story that I think is interesting. So I went to, before even getting to my last year finals, like before finishing my degree, a year before, I went to a conference called Cybertech, and this is where I think it emphasizes kind of how I did, an interesting thing I did that can be learned from is I went to this conference, and this kind of main manager of the conference was intrigued by a young person coming to a conference where everyone is old and doing serious cybersecurity stuff. And I kind of talked to him and reached out to him and wasn't really ashamed of doing that. And I thought it was an interesting opportunity to talk to one of the most influential people in cybersecurity. His name is Yossi Vardi. He was like one of the investors in ICQ, one of the biggest exits in the world, like earliest exits in the world. He's considered one of the godfathers of cybersecurity startups. Not cybersecurity, just startups. And I was like just blown away by how talented he is and how influential he is, and just reached out to him. And when I reached out to him, he put me on an interview like before, like in front of many people, and I was pretty young. And this kind of specific point in time, I think the ability to not be afraid. And again, I think there are people smarter than me, but I was just not afraid, and I thought this is a great opportunity. And I talked to him, and later on, I participated in a Capture the Flag contest with my friend I told earlier, the local Capture the Flag. And because we did very well, they offered us an internship. And then I talked to him, and I told him about this because he was kind of somewhat of a mentor back then.
What kind of internship was this offered?
So we had like Checkpoint, like it was a Checkpoint. Checkpoint is a big cybersecurity company, and it was pretty dynamic. We weren't really aimed at specific places, but I really wanted to do security research and malware or vulnerability research because as I was saying, I was really in the Twitter scene and really interested. So I talked to this Yossi Vardy, and he was really happy to help, and he kind of helped me trying to navigate to the right place I want in organization and get an interview there. And so that happened, and I got an interview and successfully passed it, which was crazy experience for me. And I think an interesting thing to take here is it's not just about living in a vacuum. Sometimes you have opportunities, you have things you can use, like not necessarily in a bad way, like in a kind of exploiting people. It's like literally you have cards in your hands. And this was an opportunity that I was had a relationship with someone that was I really looked up to, and I knew that he might be able to help me. And so I kind of captured the opportunity, and I think this one definitely was one of the most influential moments in my career because I was just both not afraid and I knew what I'm aiming for.
But was he then working at Checkpoint too? No.
He was he's a businessman. He's super known. He just helped me navigate and get the right place in the organization so I can.
So you just told him I have this internship opportunity and interview. You told him about it, and then he just gave you some advice about navigating that kind of corporate. He
gave me some advice and even connected me to the right people, which
because he was connected to Checkpoint people, or
yep. And an interesting thing to take from here is that, in my opinion, it's not just random opportunities in life. Opportunities do fall sometimes, and they're amazing, but sometimes you just have to create those opportunities to navigate towards where you want them to be. And whether be it building a team with, again, Perfect Blue, I hope you're watching this, but everyone there is super smart, really. And whether be it that, being a part of the founding member there, and whether be it navigating through a large organization like Checkpoint and many other things that happened after, I think it's not necessarily just being the best and getting an opportunity. It's also building those opportunities.
You can build these opportunities, of course, through connections to maybe influential people or just people that help you along the way. This one person you just mentioned was apparently one of these people in your life. Were there before that also teachers or parent or other people that had kind of similar influential steps for you?
Wow, that's a great question. Love the question, and I think they definitely were. So another interesting story about creating opportunities and being able to kind of progress and create more progress in life. So I really loved Capture the Flags when I started, and as I said, I was really bad. So I saw this team called Pasten, and they were super crazy. Every CTF they were playing back in the day, they won, and CCC and Google and whatever, and they were super crazy. And I was they're local from the same Israel too, and I was I want to learn from them. I want to maybe throw me a bone, let me go in some direction so I can learn and maybe one day become like you. And again, capturing the opportunities. So I searched LinkedIn for every person with Pasten name in their bio, and for every single person, as a 16-year-old, I was pretty young. I texted them on LinkedIn. I was hey, I saw that you were part of this crazy team. I would love to be able to learn and just go the similar way to you guys. Just give me something. And there were a few people, one of which really did have a lot of passion towards helping me, and who really pointed me in the right directions and really did an amazing job at not giving me the answers, but giving me the way. So his name is Matan, and he really did have a lot of impact in that sense too. And also kind of thanks to him and many different people along the way that did help me and pave the way, I kind of have a rule for myself that if someone reaches out to me and asks me about how to get to certain places and how to learn and so on, I will do my best to try to help them, because I know I got there thanks to people doing this for me. And I think there are two, like there's been two more instances of a similar thing, like not necessarily like the same way that this one happened. One of which is turned out to be like my boss at Microsoft, and he's also my kind of boss right now. His name is Tomer, and the other one is Asaf Rappaport. He was like he's the general. He was the general manager at Microsoft in Israel, and also is the CEO at Wiz. And so both of them really did have a similar kind of door opening like kind of experiences with me. So the way I got to Microsoft was kind of similar to the way I got to Checkpoint.
Okay, so timeline wise, so you were having an internship. How long was the internship at Checkpoint?
Yeah, so the internship at Checkpoint was, I think, about 8 to 9 months. And the reason
was it a paid internship or was
it was,
yeah,
it was,
nice.
Yeah, it was. I saved some money. You know, I got to save some money as a young student. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And then that ended, and then were you looking for other opportunities? Like you wanted to work more? Did it was the internship planned to just be this long, or did something else come up and you quit? Like,
yeah, so actually I left Checkpoint, and that was after I think the 8 or 9 months or so. It was like the end of my college degree and the end of my high school, and there were days I literally finished school, went to college, and finished at I don't know 7, 8, 9, went to work, and it was just too much for a 17-year-old. And I was okay, maybe we need to take some time to put focus on things that cannot go back, like high school or college that I didn't want to give up on. And so it was the time I stopped working at Checkpoint.
You stopped working at Checkpoint at the end of your degree, or no? Was this in the middle still of your college?
Still throughout my degree.
Yeah. And then you were focusing just on your degree for now first, and now I guess you were also thinking about what to do after your degree.
True.
And then is that when Microsoft kind of came into the view, or is this something that happened after you got your degree, or what were you thinking about, what I'm going to do with this degree, or what is coming next?
I left Checkpoint, and I kept going with CTFs and doing that, and I didn't really want to stop with it because it was super important for me, and I didn't want to just give up on it. And so I kept doing that, and one of the things that took place in a similar and around the same time was a conference, another one in Israel called Blue Hat. And I went to the conference, and I was you get accepted only to one of the 2 days. So there's always 2 days, and you get accepted only to one of them.
As like a participant, you have to apply.
Yeah.
For it. Does it cost money, or was it or
no?
It
doesn't cost money. It's a Microsoft kind of sponsored built by Microsoft.
But that's also why you kind of need to apply, and maybe you get only a 1 day.
Yeah. Exactly. So I got accepted to the first day, and I really wanted to get to the second day. So I kind of my aunt drove me there, and she told me, yeah, maybe you should talk to someone, get that going. Maybe you'd be able to get another day, and so on. And then I saw there Asaf Rappaport, who was the manager, general manager of Microsoft Israel, and she told me, yeah, go talk to him, ask him, tell him that you want to go another day, and so on. And so I did. And I did go to him after few hours of debating whether I should or not, because who am I next to him? A young boy knowing nothing, and he manages a lot of people, and I was super nervous. And after debating with myself and my aunt and my mom, I just said, yeah, okay, you know what? Why not? So I did that, and he was of course you can come. And then the second day, he also kind of introduced me to a few the second day introduced me to many different people, one of which was Tomer that I talked about earlier, and he was helping build the Blue Hat conference back then, and a few more interesting people. And
I actually want to I think the situation is very interesting about your aunt like giving you advice how to approach this, because like for a lot of things and catching opportunities, you seem like to you seem to have like a very strategic mind already, like approaching things, opportunities, and maybe having the confidence to go for it. So it sounds interesting that you talked about these kind of thoughts. I would like to go to a second day with your aunt that I presume has nothing to do with IT security or something.
Yeah.
Did you often get like, or were seeking out advice from example, family, and you were updating them on what you were doing? Or was this just a coincidence that one day you told your aunt and she just told you to do that?
I was really open about it, both with my parents, my aunts, and whatever. And I think it's also an interesting thing because people can give you advice even if they're not from the field. Actually, my aunt, like, it's part of the story, but kind of like already knew kind of we had a connection to Asaf through her. Like she knew his mother, which was random, and she told me that maybe like she can help with that, and I just reached out to him, and it worked by myself. Like it worked out after I reached out to him. I told him, yeah, I also I do like computer science degree, and I worked at my Checkpoint. It was like, yeah, of course you can come. And I also told him, I threw in that my aunt knows his mother, and he was like, this is random, but okay.
So sounds like you had also a good support network behind you. Like, I mean, at least listening and being interested in your what crazy things you are doing, and like I guess some parents like don't like have different ideas for their children what to do or so. But you said you were very open about like everything you are doing with your family, and so they were very supportive and in general.
Yeah. And I think they like I think that being open really helped me make decisions in a way that I might have not been able to as a young person.
For these big life decisions, like starting maybe this degree program you did, or taking on this internship, or maybe looking for a job, are these decisions you take by yourself? Like, are you always listening to yourself, or are you talking to other people? Is it friends or family? How would you say the very difficult decision, the big decision, are you set on a goal, like already, like this decision is easy, or
good question,
are there people involved for you?
Wow, that's a hard question. I think there are things that I am confident with myself that I know I'm making the right decision, and at least that was back in the day. But now, like back in the day, also I was pretty young, and making big decisions was hard. So obviously I consulted. But I think now, as more of an adult and being able to analyze situations and take decisions based on logic and like thinking them through, is much more. I have much more. Like the decision is much more in my hands, and I'm taking him like. But I obviously am consulting, and I want to hear people's opinions, and sometimes I'm not being blocked by my own thoughts. I'm always open, and I think it's important to be open because you don't know, like you should know that there are things that you don't know, and you should know that there are definitely things that you don't know that can change your mind. Like I'm sure there are, and if you are not aware of this fact, then you're already with a disadvantage because you're like lacking information. So I think the ability to know that you don't know things that can change your mind is important, and this is like the root of being able to take advice from people.
All right, so you went to the second day of the conference. You talked to some people. So how did that did that directly turn into a job at Microsoft?
No, that didn't. So I think it's the same motive. It's the same it's the same thing that happened previously. That I thought this was an opportunity. Thought this was an interesting opportunity, and I tried to see if I can like use it. And so I talked to him again, and I talked to my aunt, and I tried to see if there's possibility after I finish my degree to like take an internship at Microsoft maybe. And so I did this exploration, and which wasn't kind of trivial because Microsoft really didn't like Checkpoint had like a specific internship for like young kind of kids, like not kids, but like 16, 17-year-olds. And I was that age back then. But Microsoft didn't really have that. They were like a company hiring like adults, and it's an adult job, and it's like not, there aren't kids roaming around the campus. So the initial kind of instinct was not the most positive one. And so I kind of aimed for just to sit with him and to talk to him and to Asaf, and maybe something can come out of it. And when I sat with him, and I remember this day till this day, I remember where it was. I remember like what the weather was. I remember what I was wearing. I remember this whole scene. And I think what got me in this position was like kind of like, I don't know if it's like not giving up, but this is one of the things, but it's also like trying to trying to take the opportunities you have. And so I kind of sat with him over coffee in a small coffee place in Tel Aviv, and he said, "You know what? We're building a team right now. Why not? You seem like you like this kind of job. You like vulnerability research. Also, the person leading it was someone you already met on the second day of the conference, which was pretty crazy. It was Tomer, and we also kept in touch up between those kind of situations. We met at meetups of Blue Hat, and he also gave me missions. He gave me like challenges to try, and like he told me, okay, read about execv, try to see what you understand about the syscall, and he really likes Linux, so, which is funny because he worked at Microsoft, but he really gave me some challenges, and so he already knew what I was doing at Checkpoint, and he gave me some challenges. And when Asaf connected us two, that was a crazy like, it wasn't as much of an interview as much as it was like, I know you can take this on your shoulders. Are we doing it or not? And that moment, I think most of life is a continuous kind of thing, and there aren't many specific moments in life that change you. But I think the fact that I really insisted on this kind of opportunity, and the fact that, again, I think there are many people who, I truly believe that could have been in my position and do great, like as much as I did and even better in Microsoft. And I think what like stood out was the fact that I just didn't give up on the opportunity.
And was this then a real job, or was this an internship again?
It was an internship. It was paying like as much as a real job does. Like I was working there full time.
And this was after your degree. You finished?
Yeah, it was like I finished. I just had time off between the military and high school and college, so that was it.
So yeah, that's maybe important to know. Like, there's mandatory military service in Israel.
Yeah.
Which at what age do you have to do it, or do you can shift it around? Like,
so you have to do it at 18, but it depends on like where you get drafted, like what unit and so on. So based on that, you the timing changes.
You finished your degree, I think, around 18. So, but so now the time you knew that the time for the mandatory military service would come up. So in that time in between, you took that internship.
So I took it. Yeah, I was 17, 18 at Microsoft. I finished my degree.
Sorry. You finished the degree while you were at Microsoft, or you finished the degree and afterwards?
Before.
Yeah. Okay.
I finished it before. You don't get a diploma until like a year after, but I finished everything. I just waited to get the physical diploma. But yeah, I was like between like 17 to 18, just got the birthday in between the process of being like high school student and that gets drafted to Microsoft and
so how long were you then at Microsoft?
I was like 8 months.
Okay. Yeah.
So like from like I was like 8-9 months. I'm not sure exactly on the timing, but it was like somewhere around that.
And this is also the time of your talk, right? At Microsoft?
Yeah. And it's also an interesting story about that. Remember the interview I told you just about with Tomer, who already knew me and gave me the challenges? In the interview, he was like, "How is your English?" And I was like, "Okay, it's pretty good." He was like, "Okay, we might be able to submit to some conference." And I was, in my mind, I was like, I am like, who am I to submit to some conference? I did like, okay, I worked at Checkpoint, okay, but what? No, there's no way this is going to happen. He said, let's see the timing. Maybe we can submit to CCC. And in my mind, this is like, he is delusional. There's no way this happens. And he literally said it out loud. And fast forward like a few months after, I worked on some projects at I was at MSRC at Microsoft, and me and my teammate were like three person team, and like 2-person and a team lead, and me and my team member, we both submitted to CCC, and we both got accepted. And in my mind, this was crazy because, again, I don't like I think I'm smart, but I do think there are many smarter people than me. How did that happen? I think what pinpointing at it was being able like to set your mind to something and to understand that you have to use many different cards, whether it be it people that you meet, whether it be network, whether it be it working very hard. Sometimes it's also like your like IQ or something. I don't know, but you have to use your whole deck of cards to get where you want to get. And I truly want people to take this from this interview that you have a deck of cards and you want to get somewhere. You need to be able to use your deck of cards. And in here, I think the cards that I use is like working hard, being super passionate about what I do, and like also being a people's person, talking to people and like using the opportunities you have and help like people like wanted to help. So I really want people to take this from this interview because life is much more complicated than just being the strongest technical person, or just being the person who does all the networking, or just one kind of vector. I think this is like a set of things you can use.
Okay, so now you had this internship at Microsoft, which also was, I guess, time limited because you knew the mandatory military service was coming up.
Yeah.
I can also tell you, for example, in Germany, when I was 18, there was still also mandatory military service. And actually, I was like, I think maybe the last generation, or maybe there were 2 more generations, and now it became a voluntary thing. But at that time, it was still mandatory. And I hated the thought of it because I really like I was at that time, I was so driven. I really wanted to study computer science. I had the chance to do a dual study program. Like I got into a very, like for me, that was a more prestigious, like a dual study program at IBM. There was like assessment center and like full, like
cool.
Lots of interviews. Like I was very proud getting that, and I hated the thought of that interrupting it and that getting into the way, this mandatory military service. And so for me, I just hated the thought. Like I was so driven, I just wanted to like go to a company and show them what I can do, like that I know so much and that I'm motivated, and so I just wanted to show the world that I'm like in computer science now doing good stuff. I wasn't in security at the time; it was just like computer science, but I hated the thought of it. And so I actually like I also was a voluntary firefighter, and that was an alternative
cool.
you could do. So I had so if I would have gotten drafted after the medical check, I would have declined and gone to the firefighters because I could do that in parallel to the military, and the military service would have been full time. I feel like I explained it in a weird way. Anyway, luckily, I got kicked out due to medical reasons because at that time I was a bit more underweight, and the doctor with a Russian accent was laughing at me that I cannot even hold a fire hose because like I'm so weak and thin. So I was not fit for military, and so I actually, because when you get kicked out for medical reasons, there's no mandatory thing. So I was very happy about that. Anyway, long story short, for me, the military was like an interruption I very much wanted to avoid. So how was it for you when you knew the military was coming up? Did you felt like it was an issue for your career, like it gets interrupted, or because you knew it was coming, you were like already like mentally prepared for it to happen? Like, what was that time like?
Yeah. Crazy story, by the way, that you just said. So I think I was very much mentally ready for it. I knew the mandatory service is coming. Everyone around me did this, and it was pretty obvious that I'm going this way. I was also very like hyped about it because I got accepted to something that I really wanted to do, which was security stuff.
Okay, so I guess
And-
that's the difference. In Germany, the mandatory service it's really like the one you have to do is actually like the combat training stuff. But so you had the option to do like actual like go into security to do something that is actually relevant and interesting to
yeah,
you.
maybe that also plays a factor in there. Yeah, and yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I got accepted to something that was considered to be very prestigious, and I worked like a lot back then at like cybersecurity stuff, and I was really hyped about it. So I think this was a key part as to why I wasn't sad, quote unquote. Yeah, I think this was the main reason, but also
So
I
did you
really
s-
enjoyed what I'm doing, and I was hoping that I could continue enjoying what I'm doing later. So
So would you consider it as another opportunity for you being able to go into that education program because it was still security and so forth? Like, did you see it as an opportunity, a good step for you?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely saw it this way, and I definitely I was really enjoying what I was doing. I felt like my job is my hobby. I was doing, but trying to solve riddles and trying to think of like doing vulnerability research in my mind was trying to think to outsmart the developer and trying to be clever and doing all that. And it's for like riddle solving. And I was hoping I can continue solving riddles in the future too. And so what motivated me was both looking at it as a step in my career, and also I just hope to enjoy what I'm going to do. As simple as that, nothing too fancy.
What I think is interesting is that you have a lot of changing environments around you, like the context you're in. So you are in school, you meet new people there. You get an internship at Checkpoint, which probably exposes you to new people.
Yeah.
You go to conferences, a new set of people again. You work at Microsoft, new people around you again. I think something that you did very well, maybe accidentally, is getting exposed to lots of different places and people. And you mentioned it already, like once in a while you met this one person that helped you like open the door to another place. And I guess military again exposes you to a new crowd again, like new people that are with you in there, new bosses that could like help you in some way. So I just find this an interesting fact that you had lots of changing environments, but that everywhere there were key pieces that would help you along the way.
Yeah, there were a lot of changing environments. That's true. And also kind of my goals also changed. I think I was very much my all like the first part, I guess the part of where I was very into vulnerability research, and this was like everything of like interest in my life was super oriented and around like solving challenges, looking at the challenges, at the problems as challenges, and trying to do the hardest ones and the most difficult ones that no one can be able to do so. And I always push myself more and more and more and more and more, whether it be at CCC, of giving a talk, and what the next was like the military. I was always pushing myself to the next intellectual challenge. And I think the moving environment also changed my kind of goals. So throughout my service, I understood that I really enjoy the challenges, the technical challenges, and the depth of them. But I also wanted to try another kind of challenge. And I got the opportunity to be a commander in a course, in a cybersecurity course, and I managed to like.
For how many years was this military service?
So it was about 5.5 years.
Oh, wow. Compared to your other internships, is much longer. Did you get bored quickly, or was this like a good opportunity and maybe also a changing environment? Maybe the trainings are changing, or like how was that experience? Because now that's a very long time compared to the shorter things you did before.
So in terms of bored, it wasn't bored per se. I think it was like I got in like I had some sort of a training that took about 9 months, which is pretty like pretty much a lot of time on its own. And then I did about 3 years of like proper work, technical work, research, and all that things. And I really enjoyed that. And I don't think I encountered kind of boredom. It was always like what I always was aiming at in a bigger challenge. So always there were always more challenges. Difficulty went up, and so there was no real boredom that was present. And I think this is what kept me going, is the fact that always I always encountered more difficult challenges. But after a certain point of doing research for a long time, I was, all right, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's another thing I can do that I would be interested in, and maybe I don't like. Maybe this kind of like mind goal that I put myself to be very good at this specific kind of job position of being researcher and being so good at it. Maybe there's other things I can do that would interest me.
Did you feel like you reach the research goal you want to reach, and you feel like you checked it off, you reached it, and so now new thing? Or did you feel like the goal changed, like you never reached that and now you realize that you are motivated to do other things?
Wow. I don't think I reached it per se, because I do think that I got very, very high, like in terms of difficulty and everything. But I think there's always a more difficult challenge you can face, and you can always push it further. I just felt like the type of challenges that I'm seeing are like, I've seen similar to them, and they're super hard. But
how much can you say about them? Can you make some examples?
Just imagine like solving a riddle, and then getting a more difficult one and more difficult one and more difficult one. But then you kind of see that, okay, I get the gist of riddles, but maybe there's another type of challenges I can do that are not riddles. Maybe.
And when you say riddles, it's vulnerability research you were doing, or
something
you cannot
like
say,
that,
okay,
yeah.
or reverse, like I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, vuln research is a type of thing that could be I would say compared to like, yeah.
Okay, you say it in a weird way, so I try to imagine what it could be, but yeah, it's
yeah. But I think the essence is that you have this type of projects you work on, and you understand that as long as time progresses, you see more. You see that you understand you've seen more and more of them, and you kind of naturally wonder if there's other types of things that you're missing on. This is what happened to me, at least. Maybe other people don't experience that, and maybe.
So you did get bored.
I don't think I call it bored. It was just like a thought of, maybe there's more. Because I could continue doing that, but I was like, hold up, maybe. Remember, like I said in the earlier part, is that you should know that there are things that you don't know that can change your mind. This is the kind of moment that I was like, are there things that would change my mind in terms of what's the most interesting thing to me?
And was there something happening that triggered that thought, or was it a slow evolution, like over the time?
It was an evolution, but there was also a certain point in time which I was offered to go and be a commander in a course that I did earlier. That was like a singular moment of, okay, here's an opportunity. You want to take it or not? It was just that I knew that this type of work is going to be different, and very different. So I kind of went on it and just decided to go for it. And it was one of the most kind of non-trivial decisions, like the ones that you wouldn't expect me to take if you were a third observer. But I'm super proud and happy I did that, because it definitely was what I was saying. It definitely was kind of the moments that you don't know something and it changes your mind. And it was definitely something I didn't know, and it changed my mind. And what happened is I realized there's a lot of interest in building things, and building people to like progress them and make them like study better, like be more resilient to things, or building a team, like being a part of a team that builds a course together that really has to function as one like as one, basically. So this whole kind of human kind of interaction of building people to be better, and being there to try to help your friends, your teammates through difficult times, or like this whole project of of the human kind of experience in the course was amazing to me. And looking back, I think this is something that is super important in life, to be able to know that you might miss something, and to have to be hesitant to understand that you might not have enough details to make a bold decision that something is bad.
And what was this big change? Can you explain a bit more? Is it like the fact you say like building teams, and because you were part of teams, you built like a CTF team, basically you organized, and like there was already like team structures you were part of, but like as a teacher position, I guess, is that just very different? Like, did you find like a new kind of like
it's more than a teacher. I think I had responsibility for people. I had to help, whether be it people I directly was a boss of, but it was also, we were a team, and the situations were more than like just like working together in a CTF. It was, we have to deliver this by tomorrow, and otherwise the course doesn't run properly. And so like the situation got you in very, very stressful kind of situations with your teammates and with the like other people in the like other courses and so on. And it was pretty fascinating to experience the stress and the ability to work under stress and to perform very well under stress and to help people, even though you have plenty of other things you have to do.
But what is the difference to, like, I'm sure in the technical work you have done, there was also stress and maybe deadlines and so forth. Mm-hmm. So was it just like, did it feel differently because people were more relying on you? It's not, yeah.
It was totally your responsibility. And you had to take care of things, otherwise they don't happen. And if you're like in a big organization, like a corporate, for example, and you like miss on a deadline or something, then people can cover up for you or something, or like there's like systems to be able to not like let a single mistake screw the whole thing up. But when you're in a position where you're like in charge of the thing, then screwing something up is much easier.
So was it the in charge of thing, kind of like a now you are not just like an equal team member, like in a team, like a CTF team, or you are just an employee. Now you are more, I guess, like a senior, like boss level. You have responsibility at least over people. It's not necessarily that you are the boss of the students maybe, but you are definitely responsible for them. Like you are responsible for humans. Is that this being in charge about over a team, that you are in control for the success, but also the failure of that group of people? Is that like the difference or the new thing that happened?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the fact that you're responsible for something for other people was a big major difference that had an impact. And you know that if you screw up, you might screw someone like directly. Like there's someone who has difficulties in A, B, and C. If you don't help them, they're going to have that difficulties. And you have responsibility to deliver something by tomorrow. There's no one else to cover out for you. It's you, and like, unless you know your teammates and ask them and so on, but it's really a team effort, and you have a huge chunk of it. And building a CTF team was definitely something that had its responsibilities, but it was like more structured. You have a challenge and a few people working a challenge and so on, and it's very limited in the time, and it's not as much of a responsibility on people as it is in this case.
Yeah, and I guess you are equal. It's different when you are the responsible people. You are like equal teammates.
Sure.
So I guess then through this new job, being in this kind of position, new goals emerged, new ideas of what you might want to do. But was it something you were imagining yourself to do for a longer time, or did you know, okay, this is interesting, I learned something, and this sparked something new, and you want to do like now a goal change, and you knew, like, you had a new goal in mind that you wanted to reach? Or like how did then you transition away from that job?
True. That is a good question. And I think, as I said before, this is really a moment of like changing perspective. And I always knew what I want to do in life is to do something big and to have impact on a lot of people. And that was something that, like, even in the days that I was wondering whether I should do computer science or physics, what kind of, the reason I was wondering about this question was, hey, physics is something that affects billions of people. Maybe I should pivot to that. And I always had this thought in mind. I want to make be a part of a huge thing. And in my mind, the best way to get there was through being the most technically strong person, and being and that's why I was training. I was working very hard on CTF challenges and getting better and better, and being able to find 0 days vulnerabilities in the most kind of difficult targets, because I was sure this is the way to go. I was sure that being the strongest technically is the way to make the biggest impact. And I was also I was kind of questioning my way there. I had moments of an imposter syndrome. You remember I told you I texted everyone in Pasten and I've seen on LinkedIn. I was kind of questioning whether this makes me not a strong technically person, because hey, you're kind of cheating. It's not a technical thing to do. You're not hey, I solved the most challenges. They noticed me. It was hey, I thought of something. Remember I told you about the cards. I was kind of decrediting myself for this act, and maybe even ashamed of it. But what I realized during that time as a commander was that, hey, you have goals is to make the greatest a big thing that's affects a lot of people and does good and so on. Maybe you can use more cards. Maybe you're not supposed to only use the technical strength you have. Maybe you can use your network, the ability to create a good network and to be friends with a lot of people. And maybe you can use the fact that you're you set your mind to something, and you're working very hard and can put a lot of time into it. Maybe it's like playing a deck of cards. That's the point that I understood there. And I understood that I really enjoy working with people, helping out people and helping people get over difficulties they have. And even my team members, being able to push them forward when they're down, and the other way around. I loved being that they're mutual kind of relationship. And I realized how much I love working with people, how much I love building things with people, and not just, as the technical person who does all the technical job. So this was kind of what changed, and it kind of unlocked a new dimension for me.
And was that then the decision? I mean, it could be that you now found your place as a teacher in that course. That could have been something you could have pursued further. So, but I know you left that position. So were you actively then looking for new positions, maybe managing positions in other places, or was your next step again a random thing? Were you actively looking for something, or how did your next step happen?
It triggered kind of a thought that that I like working with people, and I like building something with people, and I like using the whole deck of cards and not just the single card I have, and not just maximizing on a single card. This was what got me to do what I'm doing here today. Not here specifically, but here in life today. And I was kind of thinking, how can I experience, how can I put myself in a position that helps me, or allows me more precisely, to work with great people, with great vision, be able to kind of touch many parts of the puzzle, and that would also align with future goals and that I have in life, that building something big and doing something that has a lot of impact, and really aim for the moon and not only the stars. And I was trying to search what I want to do, what I'm going to do. And I talked to many people, one of them, a lot of job offers and so on. And I decided to go with the team that I know that are winners. I know my, the team that are managing DAS today are two of them work with me at Microsoft. And I know one of them was my boss at Microsoft. He was the one that interviewed me and told me that we're going to lecture at CCC. And I know that he knows how to build things. And he also was a co-founder in another startup, and our CEO was another she's very successful, and she managed a lot of people. And first thing that popped into my mind after experiencing what I experienced in a commanding kind of job was people are important, and super important. So this was my number one priority, to work with people that I know that I can trust them, and they can I can learn from them, and I can give a lot of value to them. and the trust, like the mutual trust between the people, and that they've experienced things. So this was one thing. Another thing I wanted to do was, which was important, was kind of experiencing the same kind of mentality that we experienced in the course, which was like, you have a lot of responsibility. You have to build something that literally you have to deliver for customers. You have to do a very good job, and you have like things on your shoulders. You have a kind of responsibility on your shoulders. So this was kind of another thing that motivated me to be part of something that has a lot of responsibility and tries to build something that's not trivial. And I think this really I'm really satisfied with where I am today, because I feel like it touches every single point.
But how did you find that place? Like, were you then started to actively look, like maybe were you specifically looking for a startup because you knew like this is where I have lots of responsibility and I can build and shape stuff? Or were you just feeling, oh, this is something I would like to do, and oh, I knew these people that are making something, let me see if they have a job? Or like how did it happen?
Yeah, I think it was like more the second thing. It was like, I know that those are like crazy good people, and there was another option that really sparked me, and like another great team. But I decided to go for DAS because of the size of the company. The company like was slightly less than 100 people, and like I know that I will be very close to decision, to be able to like make decisions that actually shape the company, and actually learn from the making decisions, which is obviously true. Like sometimes you make good decisions, sometimes you make bad decisions, and learn from that and have the responsibility. But startup was an obvious choice for me, that I know that I want to be part of a startup that's like growing fast, and the team is insanely good, and I love their vision, and all that connected, the people, the vision, the position in the company of being able to, like what I'm doing with it right now is like kind of between the market and the product, right? I'm trying to understand what people actually need, and then like trying to propagate that into how we shape our like product strategy, and like what we build basically, and the other way around, how we can use the product to give maximum value to customers. So this kind of position touches both people, understanding people, which is, I understood that is very hard in the commanding job. So understanding people, trying to like derive actions from what they want and what they need and how they want it. Sometimes they say they want something, but they actually mean something else. So position that touches both tech, both people, and like all that kind of things. So that definitely, like what you said is exactly what got me there.
And were you then reaching out to them? Do you have like like you are working on an exciting startup I would like to join, or did you see an open position, or how did you find actually that position?
So honestly, there was like we kind of talked, and like people know that you're like gonna search for a job soon, and they reach out to you, but they were also like friends, so we kind of, they knew that this is gonna happen, and it was more a natural thing to get to.
Makes sense. Would you say, like, if your early story was from 0 to 0 day, that it's now from computer to humans, or from, I don't know, is that
yeah, wow, that's a good comparison. I think it's from computers to using your cards, because
like a wider thing, like it's not limited on computers, it's now it's expanding.
Definitely. And I think it also, actually, it's pretty interesting that, remember, we talked about the fact that hacking is not only computers. It's the mindset of getting some system to do whatever you want it to do, not necessarily a computer system. And I think this realization, this difference between the two is pretty similar in this case too, because you understand that you want to get to a position that, like, in my eyes, it's making a big impact and building something that has a big impact. Then you need to use your cards. Sometimes the most effective way to get there would be to like solve the most difficult kind of technical problem. Sometimes it would be to I don't know, do another thing. But in my case, I understand that this holistic view of having an impact, using your whole deck of cards, we're using building experience, building tech knowledge, like experience with people, building like experience with product, like the whole kind of thing, like working with people that you love, like working with the people that I really enjoy working with, and you have to use your whole deck of cards, and this is what I think, like the evolution that changed me, like being in positions that you first focus and optimize on the tech world, and then getting exposed pretty randomly though to something that changed your mind, even though you didn't know it's going to change, and being open enough, like having an open mind that is like an open enough mind to change your mindset and understand that there's more things in life, is kind of what happened. And yeah, I think this is an important take for, I really want viewers to take, that sometimes it all depends on what you want to do. If the most important thing to you is like, I love problem solving, and I want to be able to solve the most difficult and influential problems myself, then it's a one way to optimize there. If you want to have if you want to do something with people, maybe, like, it all depends on what your goal is, and using that you can derive which deck of cards you can use.
The perspective you have today is, I guess, like, this broader set of cards. It's not just computer and like deep technical stuff anymore. Now it involves more humans and product and markets and like business and stuff like this. It's much broader. If you now look back, like at young Jonathan with like 13, that decision to go to that school, do you feel like it would have been cool to have that kind of goal early on? Or do you think like this technical path that you took, this deep dive into research, like is so incredibly important to be able to land here? Like, did you feel like this was a detour and now you arrived at something you really want to do and you realized like this was not the super right path? Or do you think like this was necessary path to take?
Good question. I think I have a good answer too. I think that there's a huge part of life that is purely random. Like, you cannot expect how like events going to turn and change your life. And I think that the reason that I took the technical hardcore, and by the way, I still like do capture the flags, and we were just at DEF CON finals and got second, and so all that, I still have the passion for that. But I think that if I would have, my gut feeling, I don't know because I wasn't in this reality, but my gut feeling is that this kind of path I took is what built this realization eventually. And I'm not sure how the like turn of events would have happened if I took another path. If I would have met the people I met today, if I would have got into positions I had, and all that kind of thing that I did so far. I don't know if I would have reached that, and if not, then what I would have. So my gut feel is I'm really happy with what I am today and the path I took. And yet, I'm not scared of knowledge. Like, I don't, like, my gut feel also tells me I don't want to be scared of telling my younger self something that I truly think is true. So it's kind of a mix between the two. I believe that I took a good path. But I also, and I don't know how things would have changed, but I don't think it might have been a bad change if I had the knowledge. So whether I would have changed it, not sure, because I'm happy right now. And told me that I either change it or not, I have to change it or I die. I think I would have changed it because I trust myself to be logical enough. But I truly believe in the way I took, and I'm like, yeah, you learn things. You go through life, Yeah,
I would now try to summarize a little bit, which I feel like the patterns that I'm seeing now, like in what you were saying, it feels like you had always very strong conviction or goals, like you were always thriving to something. Initially it was like become maybe really, really good like vulnerability researcher, really crazy hacker, and now it kind of changed, but you always had goals to strive towards. But that was not the only thing, like the working hard and striving towards that goal. It always seems like you combine that very well with, even early on already, a human aspect of the connections you were forming and being bold, writing past 10 members on LinkedIn, or building up the courage to talk to a very important person that you felt like maybe not bothering or so, but you built up that courage. So it felt like you always had this reaching out part of humans that ultimately were also very important, maybe impossible to get the steps in your career without these humans. It was always combined with your strong goal and work ethics to build the skills, but to be able to then actually use them and be able to like show them and apply them in reality, you always needed some human connections that got you then in different positions. Would you say that is like a fair summary? Something missing? Something
100%
change?
Like a mixture between like the goals, setting the goals, and being very, how do you call it?
Convicted or
driven towards your goals, and using like the human aspect. I think this is a perfect definition.
All right, thanks so much talking to me, Jonathan, and I hope you can also learn something from this for your career. As you can see, as Jonathan said it multiple times, there are randomness factors that just happen, but you are also in control of creating, play the deck of cards right, try to increase the amount of cards in your hand, reach out to people, make connections, but also work on the technical skills, because in the end you need to prove it in interviews. You need maybe to make a name for yourself as well. So both things are important, and I think if one of them is missing, it's probably you will have a harder time. So the technical part as well as the human aspect is very important, and neither one should be forgotten. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this very personal story with all of us. And yeah, curious to see where you will end up being in another like 10 years from now.
I'm curious too.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I hope this was useful. People just like, I hope you take something interesting. Don't be afraid and follow like your beliefs and yeah, use your deck of cards.
If you want to learn more about hacking, check out our online training platform, hextree.io. We are still in early access, so there are still lots of content that we need to create, but I am still very proud of what we created so far. So come and check out our courses on hextree.io.